Alrighty, that time again. Yes, it is that time again. So let's go ahead and let's get rocking. So, hey, everybody, welcome to the Varied Life Creality K2 Plus Part 2 of a free upgrade version 2 Featherweight paint rack we've been working on for a while. And so what we're going to end up doing is kind of going over the second version. So we've done a series of paint racks. We ended up doing a first one here that's kind of sturdy, holes in the wall, holes in here that match up with a Scattis pegboard. They're not Scattis holes, but the holes match up, so it works. And then I got the idea of basically skeletonizing or using a minimal amount of material. And then I did another version that was just kind of messing around and it kind of looked cool. And then I thought, well, let's really get rid of a lot of material. And then we did that. In the previous video, we cut away some and then went through in Tinkercad, minimized it even more, reduced some of the not the settings, but the model, and kind of halved it from 3 millimeters to 1.5, did an inset. Again, we dropped some weight, and we're going to see what we can come up with. So, excuse me. With that being said, that's what we're going to end up doing. Yes, and Ferrithus, he's back. He's back. I'm back. You're back. We finished up printing the reduced weight paint rack. So we're going to go over that and just kind of a quick little once over. So we did the paint rack. You can see here in Tinkercad, the original one that we did there. Again, shapes and colors. I'm all about shapes and colors, more of a visual learner. And then I kind of nailed it down. We did this where it had a bunch of different supports in there, and then we printed it out, and then thought, hey, well, why don't we reduce some more weight? And what we ended up doing, as you can see here, is the distance on these used to be 3 millimeters. Now this is 1.5. And then the same thing with this disc, it's 3 millimeters. And so we took a hole and we hollowed that out down 1.5 millimeters. So we have a little bit of inset for the bottom of the 17 millimeter bottle. And in case you're wondering, it is the Army Painter bottles that we have there. So that's what we're looking at, is a minimized weight on this paint rack. And the holes on this are a little bit big. So I think we could shave a little bit off of there. I mean, honestly, I think we could probably do away with, if we did some more, maybe we could cut into and put like a little, we could probably do that. We could do something like this to where, I don't know, let's just take a 10, and then we could do that, and then we could move this, and then we could, basically set it in the middle there, which is about there, well, somewhere around there, and set something like that. And then what we could end up doing is grouping all this together like this, and we could replicate this cut out, and we would get a little bit less material on there for each of these openings, so we would get something like that. So that's always an option. Still be able to hold the bottle in there, reduce a little bit of weight. So that would be kind of interesting. So maybe we'll do that. We'll see. Boom. So there's a lot of that going on. Let's run over here to the program. And oh, Ferrithus comes up. He says, I was just going to send you a picture of the Benchy, which came out amazing. Amazing and tiny. Do that. Do that. Send me that. I would like to take a look at that, and we could throw that up here and see what it looks like. Ferrithus has been, he put on his K2 Plus a 0.02 nozzle. So usually the stock nozzle is 0.04 nozzle, which is great. That's what I've been using. He is expanding his realm and went down to the smaller nozzle size, and he's printed out a cool Benchy to see what that'll look like in really small. So that would be interesting. So yeah, if you want to shoot an email with that picture, we can take a look at that. Definitely throw that up. I'm interested in seeing about that as well. So back to the little paint holder thing. Here's what we ended up with is, we kind of reduce some of the material there. You can see the inset that we have, and yeah, it's going to be an interesting little thing there. So when we actually look in there, there's the first layer, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seven. So about 7 layers in, 6 or 7 layers in, and then you got about 6 or 7 more layers there to make up that 3 millimeter. And there we have it. So that'll be an interesting little thing here. Featherweight says, should be in your inbox. Printed it at 50% scale. It's tiny, only 2 grams of filament. Alrighty, well, let's take a look. Let me see if I can pull this up. Do that, pull up the email, and I've got to go to the right email account. There it is. It's sitting on a quarter, 2 grams of material. Came out absolutely amazing. Took the image straight from the build plate, no post-processing, using the cheapest filament. Dun, dun, dun. So let's get this, will it transfer over? There it is. Look at that. That is amazing. You know what we'll do? So we'll do some special, see, can we crop this? Yes, we can. We'll crop this a little bit, and then we'll make it even bigger. So this is the benchy he did with the 0.02 nozzle on the Creality K2 Plus, and sitting on a quarter. Look at that. That is pretty wild. That is crazy. Wow. I mean, that is nice. Look at that. Gotta admit that is crazy. And it's 50% of normal size. 2 grams of material. That is insane. So what was the layer height that you did on this? That turned out really, really good. Wow, for such a small nozzle, that'll be interesting. And oh, here he says, and that's only 0.1 millimeter layer height. Wow, tiny benchies. That is going to be interesting. Not even the 0.06. Excuse me. So you do realize that you must print that out at 0.06 now, you know, and reduce it down another 50% and see how that comes out. Wow. I'm looking at that. That is hot. And that is pretty clean. Holy crow. Sitting on a quarter. I'm trying to rotate the picture like it's 3D. I don't know, what is it with me today? That is a tiny benchy. 2 grams. That is amazing. No post-processing, no rubbing it to making it look nice. Cheapest filament. That is very cool. That is definitely very cool. Man, yeah, 0.06. You threw that out there. I mean, that's what you said right there. So now you got to print it out at that and reduce it another 50% and see how that comes out. So small layer benchy. That would be pretty cool. Wow, that is cool. Awesome. Good job. Let's see, where are we at now? Besides tiny benchies, we're trying to do the paint rack. Not as tiny as a tiny benchy, but yeah, it'll be interesting. It says you can pull up the benchy model in your Creality print and size it down for comparison. It's tiny. Yeah, let's do that. Since we're going to be going in Creality print anyway. So there's the model that we ended up doing. But what we can end up doing is we can just do this, and we will add a benchy, and we will move that over here, And then we will scale that down 50%. Ah, look at that. Look at how tiny and cute that is. That's so cute. So for reference, let's make this benchy. Let's make that another color. We'll make it white so that we get a little bit of contrast there and we can see what's going on. So there is the benchy, and it can basically sit inside the area that the 17 millimeter paint bottle sits in. Wow, that is pretty cool. But now if you reduce this even more, %. Look at that. That's boom. That there it is. That right there at the 0.06 height. That is your mission. That will be cool. Yeah, if you do that, that'll be interesting. Wow. Can you imagine that? That would be some good stuff. So, yeah. Awesome, awesome, awesome stuff. Ferris says, the 0.2 millimeter nozzle does 4 perimeters on that benchy, no problem. So that should be possible. Tiny, tiny benchy. Wow. Benchy, 12 millimeters high. 15 by 7.75 by 12 millimeters. Here we go. $12 millimeters. And it's 15. Yeah, that is going to be an insanely small benchy. That'll be interesting to see. 0.06 benchy. Man, that will be wild. All right, we're going to move on to larger things. Wow, some good stuff. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to go back to the desk. So I'm going to get a little bit of transition here so you can hit the like and subscribe button on the video as I turn my chair around and move the mic to go to the next thing. So as you do that, I'll be moving stuff around and we'll take a look. So we're going to move the mic, do that little whisper thing that we got going on. Got cables getting stuck everywhere. Rotate the chair. And let's see. Oh, I got a message. It says 0.06 grams of filament for 25% benchy. I'll do that tomorrow. Back to the paint rack. Did it print? That's what we're going to take a look at. That is what we're going to take a look at. And you should be seeing this. Yes, we are on the right page. So, just to catch people up, this was the original one that we did, all nice and curved. This is the executive model. And then we decided, this one I didn't show. I just wanted to make a little festive, just do some cutouts with some squares and angle it. So that kind of turned out kind of neat. So we did that one. And then we printed out another one of these, except it had all the supports on the back. And then we just kind of cut those out with some cutters. And we ended up with, if I'm not mistaken, 15.6 is what we had last time. 15.7, 15.6 grams. So that's how much our minimalist one is here. And then now this is the newest one that just came out. Boom. And there we go. And with the supports, it's 22.2. And so now we'll end up doing, remember how I was talking about that XY distance from the material, from the support to the model? It ended up, did it connect? Yeah, we got a couple of connections there. So it might be hard to see, but it ends up the tree slim support as actually touching a little bit of that model there. So we get a little bit of a notch there, imperfection. So I need to increase that. But other than that, so those came off good. I had a few little lines going across here because this was printing, you know, across these supports, which is a little problematic. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit of surgery here. And this is the 0. Is this 0.2? Let me take a look at that, because I can't remember if that's what it was. Tree support setting. Yeah, I'll take a look at that. Get that to you. So for this was printed out at 0.2 layer height. So yeah, this little thickness in here. But I think if we drop this down to 0.16, we could get some pretty nice stuff going on. And that top Z distance, I set it at 0.24 if I'm not mistaken. And they come off kind of good. But we do have a little bit of stringing on the bottom here, and a couple of strays. I don't know if you can see that right there. We got a couple of loops. So it might go down to like 0.24 for that. But they come off pretty good. And the 0.24 works well. Just that bottom Z distance is the object XY distance from your model to the support is just kind of wonky. That's why I usually set it at 0.6, especially with the slim tree supports. For some reason in Creality print, it doesn't separate away as it should, unfortunately. So I'll have to trim that up a little bit. Oops. So just want to make sure I don't cut the support, because that would be bad. And we'll see how this goes. Yeah, nice. Yeah, just comes right off there. Yeah, it's getting a little bit of a sticking point where the support is a little bit of contact on there. And for some reason, it only does this on the slim tree supports. So it is what it is. But otherwise, they come off pretty good. And I've got a video on that where I take the supports and I did support testing with some different models, which actually came from test models from Uncle Jesse. That was like on, I think it was printables, I think it was. And he had the test models, so you could run the test models for your support distance, top Z distance. So, this one, we'll just do that. These are connected together. Those come off good. Yeah. So yeah, we can clean up a little bit of that. Where those supports hit on the model itself, because that setting is messed up. But we did have a little bit of a mess up. You can see where we've got some lines there, some threads that didn't quite make it across. But now the question is, will it fit? It printed, and yeah, so we got a little inset in there, so that came out good. Oops. No, we don't want that. We want that. So we got our inset in there. A little bit less material, even on the one that has some little stringing on the side there, as you can see. That still fits. But yeah, not bad. So now the question is, how much does it weigh? That is the question. So now, dun-dun-dun-dun, I'll bring out the scale. Got all our support material, printing out more stuff as if I didn't need to print out more. And make sure this teared out, 0 grams. And here we go. 10.9 grams. Is that what we're getting? 10.9. See if we do it some other places. 10.8. Do it over here. 10.9. We'll just put it back in the center like we did the other ones. So 10.8 grams. So yeah, 10.9. Settles in at 9. 8, 9. One last one. So this is going to be the final number. We'll go with 10.8. So 10.8 grams for a minimalist paint rack for our army painter. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. 10.8, not bad. And like I said, what we could end up doing is taking a little slot off of the front of each of these. We could do that. I don't think I want to take away this support. We could minimize the supports a little bit, but I'd keep these the same, because really, I mean, well, I don't know, we could almost half this, but that's pretty good as it is. But again, we just got those strings there, as you can see there, little strings that didn't connect up there, and probably because of the tree supports. When this was printing out, I was a little worried about that, because you weren't getting a solid connection, so you're going to have some, bridging that's going to occur. And since most of the supports were here, it's no wonder that on this inside that's what we ended up having, because it didn't really have good support. So if I got rid of the tree support, or at least the slim, get rid of the tree support and just do the regular ones and do build plate only, or I could just paint supports on the bottom of all of these, that would get rid of this little bit of stringing here. So, because that just kind of printed in midair, and so, yeah. But still, not bad. Not bad. 10.8 grams. I like that. So cute and quaint. 10.9. 10.8, so it is like right on the cusp of 10.9. It's probably like 10.899999. So anyway, that's what we ended up getting. We'll go with the 10.8 grams for our minimalized. So there's that. That is the lightest. This other one was, what is 15.6? 15.5, it lost some weight. 15.6, so there's that one. And then we did this other one, probably going to be, I don't know, 18? No, 31, 32 on the nose, a little bit more decorative. And then the first one that we ended up doing comes out to 56.6. So yeah, we got a variety of paint racks. So something more hardcore. I like this one. This one's kind of cool, but it's kind of decorative. Maybe if you'd had like a southwestern paint scheme with this, and that would kind of look cool. But yeah, that's what we got going on. So not bad. Not bad. 10.7, 10.8, 10.7, 10.8. We'll call it 10.8. Looks like that did pretty good. 10.7 now. I guess it depends on the humidity level. That might have something to do with it as well. So we're going to call this good. We're going to transition back over. So if you'll bear with me, as the build plate goes on the floor. Also take the time to like the video. And we'll put this over. Boom, boom. Make sure the chair's not sitting on the video cable. And we are back. Okay, so let's see. Tree support settings. Yeah, tree support settings. Let's take a look at those since we're here. And since we're in the support settings, and if I did these just default, and we slice the plate, let's go ahead and we'll take a look at this. And this would be 59 cents, 29. You know, with the supports, I think we'd get a lot better coverage using regular supports on there, as far as all around the perimeter of that upper ring. I think that would actually be better, because if we change this to slim, and then it's always going to ask you to put recommend using it with 0 interface layers, 0 top distance, and 2 walls. You know, I tried working that out, but it just didn't work out. And let's slice this and I'll kind of show you why. You see, we don't get as much coverage on there. We get some spots that are open. But like I said, the big problem is when we zoom in here and we can see that the model actually touches, and that's where we have those problem areas, because the support touches the model itself. And if we go over here to the right, and this is with the Tree Slim, and we go down here, top Z distance is set to 0.24, which is usually really good. I mean, this is a good support setting for me. Either that or 0.24 or 26, 0.26, but generally 0.24 is pretty good. But when you come down to the, where is it? Support object XY distance is 0.4. So in other words, this is supposed to be, when we're looking at this here, that distance, you know what, this would be better. So that way we can just throw it on the screen and you can see it much better. So that's support object to XY distance. That's going to be the distance from your support to the object, obviously on the XY. So the X and the Y is supposed to be 0.4. But as we see, when you use the tree slim supports, you'll actually get contact with the model. The support tree will be in contact with the model. So at times I've had to adjust this to the point, and I didn't do it this time. I thought 0.4 would be good enough, but I put 0.6, and let's slice this again. And we still, because I thought we would get enough distance, but we're still getting a little bit of contact on those areas. So yeah, bottom Z distance. But it's interesting because when we go up here, and let's just put it on default, and we just set it like that, then we don't get any of the models touching. We actually get that, there we go. You can actually see that we've got that distance between the support tree and the model. So whatever it is with the tree auto slim support, even though you set that distance, because I bet you it's set at 0.6 right now, but let's set it to 0.4, I bet you'll still get enough good distance on there, and you won't have that tree contacting the base of the model. Let's see, where do we, you should back up, try to look. There's a good place to look. But we see how we still have some good distance between the model and the support. There's just something about the tree slim support where, yeah, on that setting of the object, support object XY distance. So, the slim ones always fall over for me when the supports touching the model are coming off hard. You need to adjust the bottom Z distance. I've never messed with the bottom Z distance, which is 0.2. I've always left that stock. I've never had any problems. And when we zoom in here, that's the distance that I'm seeing right there. But when we go to, at least in my experience, when I go to that tree auto slim, that's when I get it to where this base raft, I guess you could call it, will be in contact with the model like we just saw. So for whatever reason, tree slim support just kind of ignores those settings for some strange reason. So I don't know. It is what it is. But what I have found is that when I use the regular tree supports, default 0.4 is good. You can see we got enough distance there, and then with that bottom Z is 0.4, bottom or 0.2 is like we end up seeing right there. So we've got that distance between the model. I haven't had problems with that. It's only with the tree slim support. So the XY distance doesn't affect that since there are no piece of the model in that plane. You can also move the tree bases around by changing the tree support branch angle. If you reduce that, they are more straight. Okay, I've never done that before. I've just always used the settings. But like I said, when I go through and I change it from the default tree auto support to slim, it'll always come in contact with the model with the exact same settings. So at tree slim, like we saw in the model that we just did, those little base rafts always touch the model. Kind of problematic. It's not that big of a deal, but as we saw it, the trunk does get in contact with the model, and it's only when I change that setting of support object XY distance. But if the bottom Z distance, let's change that and take a look, and we'll see for that area right there. So on the bottom Z distance, let's make that 0.5, just to make it an obvious. And we don't really see a big difference on there between that distance, which is interesting, the bottom Z distance. Let's go back to 0.2 and see if we see anything noticeable. Yeah, that's the same thing I was getting before when I would play with that bottom Z distance. I just wouldn't get anything. It didn't, at least in the slicer program. So I'd have to come down to like 0.6 on the support object XY distance. So let's go ahead and set that, and I'll show you what I mean. 0.6, because that's kind of a big one. So you can see we got a little bit of distance there. Ferris says the bottom Z distance is the height above the model the support is printed. The distance you're looking at is the XY. Oh, okay. Is the height above the model. Interesting. I don't know. I haven't seen any discernible change with that bottom Z distance in playing with that. Get that out of the way. Bottom Z distance. Z gap between the bottom support interface and object parameter. Or the Z gap between the bottom support interface and object. So that should be that right there. So with that, let's just put 0.1 and see what happens. And it looks like got a little bit closer. Let's just set this to 5, see what happens for the bottom Z distance. Do 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 do. And Ferris says, set it to tree slim that are touching the model and then set the bottom Z distance to 1 millimeter, for example. Sure, let's do that. So we'll go back up here, tree, slim, we'll disregard that. And then we'll set the bottom Z distance and we'll set that to 1 millimeter and we'll see what happens. So that base raft, yeah, see how close that base raft is? And then what we end up seeing is really when we see this dark green, at least what I've seen, well, there's the distance there is increased. So I get that, but I've always kind of had that when it's this close, at least when I do it, the base trunk of the tree support is touching the model, it is always fused together a little bit. Let's go back to 0.2. And we can see the distance there is a little bit more right there. But it's that dark green area. Set it to the tree slim, and then, okay, we did that. Where it climbs above the model, that's a 1 millimeter gap now. So the 1 millimeter gap, I see what you're saying. Okay, gotcha. The raft distance is the mode, is set on the support object first layer gap. That is set to 1 millimeter as well. Which is odd because the difference I've seen with that on default tree auto support versus the tree slim, on default tree auto support, that raft doesn't touch the model, or the trunk of the support doesn't touch the model. When I put it on the tree slim, leave everything the same, it should have the same distance, but like we saw on this model, boom, it hits the base raft hits the model, and then also we get that contact there. So I don't know. I think it's just the tree slim is like, but we did have that little bit of stringing on the inside, and I think it's because we just had a little bit too much bridging, or maybe it was going too fast. But if we took this and let's set it to normal auto default support, on build plate only. Everything else, top Z distance 0.24. Support distance, okay, so let's try this and see what this would look like. Interesting, no supports. Of course, now my Creality is acting up. That's just the setting for the minimal distance. If the trunk grows further away from the model, it will be further away on the first layer. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. But default auto, we enabled the support. So now, bottom Z distance 0.2, top Z 0.24, object XY distance. Okay, so that's usually what I end up doing. Wow, it doesn't even do supports when I select support. Normal supports, default. That is odd. Let's try that. We'll disable that. Then we'll go back, we'll enable the support, we'll slice the plate again, and it doesn't come up. Huh. Yeah, the tree slim just tries to get as close as it can, and that's why it defaults to a minimal distance, which is a 0.2 now. Yeah, and use less material. So, but it's just weird how I saw that difference with that, and now I'm kind of wondering why it won't do regular auto supports, or because I enabled the supports normal default. We should be getting a massive supports here, but we don't. Let's just do tree auto. Let's just do hybrid just to see what happens. Interesting. Cannot produce normal supports while you also have checked on build plate only because they only grow over. That's right. Yeah. Duh. Build plate only. Duh. 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 Magic. What are the odds? Ooh, that's a hell of a lot of supports. That would definitely support those rings for sure. Holy crow. You just leave that on there and have that as your... So now the question, how much would that come out to? 51.07 grams. Not bad. I mean, it's like $1.02. That's not bad. But you could do better. That's why I like the tree support. And the build plate only. Well, let's see what it does without the build plate. Just put it everywhere. See what happens. Even that's not bad. But the question is, do we get a good line of support? That's a lot better around that bottom edge. Except for there's some areas there that's not covered. Interesting, interesting. Or what we could do is we could also, let's go back to prepare, select our model, and we will go to, let's kind of put that over there. And we will paint our supports. And what we could end up doing, let's see if we just, I'm gonna go back, forget that. Dun dun dun. I got enable supports. Imagine that. What are the odds? What are the odds? I'll slide that over. Now, there we go. There we go. Following directions. So we can just hit that. Boom. And all of those areas. And we got a couple more. For like the, that right there. Bam. We got that one there. Bam. And then, well, actually, let's erase all painting. We'll go back and we'll paint that. And then we'll do the circle because we just want to get this area here. It's a little bit big, but you know, what the hell. Ding. Ding, fries are done. And then we slice the plate. And we'll see how that turns out. So do we get more coverage? Yeah, we get a lot better. We get more coverage on that. So that might be something to do too. That we can see on that. Not as many open spaces. So painting the supports on there, that might be something to do as well. But how does that look? Oh. Boom. I think that wouldn't be too bad. I think that would be all right. And as long as the support trunks and all that stuff don't get in contact with the model, we're good to go. I think that would be a very good, that would be a good model to print. Not bad. Let's bring that back up. So yeah, there it is. Fun stuff to do. So we ended up printing out some cool stuff and ended up at whatever the weight was for that thing. What was it? The final. Let's see if it's the same over here. In our skeletonized version. .8, 10.9, 10.9. If I move it over here. .7, 10.8. Okay, now it's settled. 10.8. Okay, so that's what we end up having. So this printed out pretty good. That's entirely doable, and it's sturdy enough to, you know, if we flex this, it's got some flex. Of course, it's PLA. So as far as that, oops. But if you're looking for a minimalist paint rack, that turns out pretty good. Just need more supports on those top rings, and of course, I think we could fix that with the tree supports and painting on the supports area on there. I think that'll work out good. So, and yeah, the other thing I wanted to show you is boom, ba boom, ba 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 boom, ba ba ra ra, da da. I'll take a look at this, and I want to show you the top Z offset. It doesn't have it. Top Z. Does that pop up? There it is. So with this, and this is that top Z distance. Yes, we can. So in this one, what I ended up doing is these are the models from Uncle Jesse, and that's where I wanted it to go. Boom. Different models. The support removal test, no more stuck supports, and I found this on Uncle Jesse. Of course, my face is in this weird forget the face. So, you know what we're going to do? We're going to just get rid of the face. Because it was too disturbing. Now where'd my other thing go? Where did it go? Just, there it is. Okay. So we'll get rid of the look of horror on my face. But that was the models that you could get from Uncle Jesse on these top Z distances. We'll get rid of. You know what? We'll just do this. We'll just make this easy. Boom. There it is. But if you get those models, the support Z distance, support removal test, no more stuck supports, printables by Uncle Jesse, you can get those. He has a number of those models that are already preset for that top Z distance, and you can always just go to your heart's content. I think he's got like, let me see if I can find that, because I got it in the, there it is, printables, as it pops up. Bum, bum, bum. Da-da-da-da, da-da. And of course now I need to adjust this so we can get all of that. And he has a number of models on here. So when you go down and you look at this, he has all the test options. So it's like 3, 6, 9, 10, 11 different settings. So, and then he's got a blank one, so you could go in and you could test have your own setting for that top Z distance. 0.2, 0.22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, all the way up to 0.4. What I found is like that 0.24 is, you know, kind of what I ended up finding on me or on mine for the test. And 0.265 ends up, it'll support, but they'll come off super, super easy. And I found that out on the model for Ivor, which is this guy here. And this guy printed out at 0.16 millimeters. And I know it's kind of washing out, but the supports on this guy were just, they were barely hanging on. Some of them weren't even hanging on to the model, but the model printed out. So I don't think I'd go past 0.265, but 0.24 is good. Those will stay in contact. They'll have a little bit of adhesion, but as far as taking them off, it's pretty good. So somewhere within that range, if you just want to copy that. But it was kind of fun to do the test and to find out which ones work. And of course, it would make a difference, at least in some of the testing, because it has a larger model, like we see here, for the overhang test, and then it has a smaller version of that. So you can see it on a larger model and then see it on a smaller model and see what the differences are, and you wouldn't think there would be, but there are. So that's kind of a good test to do. I really need to paint this guy. This is, yeah, fun stuff. So that'll be a good looking one to do. So yeah. Did I do any post-processing? No, I haven't touched him at all yet. Like I said, that was at the 0.16 millimeter and the 0.265 or 264 was the offset for the supports. And again, those things just fell off. So I'm kind of surprised, because as it was on the build plate after it was done, you could see the supports weren't even touching the model. I mean, they were it's like, okay, we touched a little bit and bing, and then they didn't. But the model printed out perfectly. So yeah, zero support, zero post-processing on that, and I'm probably gonna run some filler paint primer onto that, kind of like what I did with the Hulk back there, and that should come out pretty good. But there's just so much detail on that. I don't think I'm going to need to do anything, because where there are some support marks, it ends up, it's kind of like the fur, and so it kind of hides it a little bit. And to be honest, I don't think you'd be able to, you know, you could see like underneath this arm right there, you see a little bit there, like right under his armpit there. You see a little bit of that maybe on the side, but then again, it's right in there, like. But it turned out fantastic. And so there's a couple little, little places that you could see, like, where is it? Like right there, you can see a couple of hairs. I could probably run my finger and get rid of that. But, I don't think I'll have a problem. And the only problem area was this right here. And there wasn't enough support. So as you can see right there, and then there wasn't enough supports on this, so I had to put some modeling clay or whatever, so I got to sand that out. I'll fill this in to smooth that out, but other than that, the rest of it came out great. And I should have put some more supports there. I should have painted that in, but I didn't. This was all just auto support. So yeah, there it is. Turned out really, really good. I'm just kind of apprehensive on painting faces and skin, but I'm getting a little bit better at that. So once I do my small versions of some Viking dudes, then I will jump to this one, prime this. I could probably prime it now. So we got a little bit like on the head of the axe. You can see right there. So you got a little bit of marks there, but then again, that's on the axe. It's not something, unless you went over this with a fine-tooth comb, this is painted or primed, you're not going to pretty much see those. But yeah, this is an awesome file. I like that one a lot. And that's what this little tiny booger was this guy here on him. So yeah, pretty amazing. I think this is resin printed. Remember how I said that was FDM printed? I was wrong. That is resin printed. So I don't want to be a liar, but I think that's resin printed. I haven't done an FDM this small. And that was been bugging me. I've done smaller stuff on the this one. This one is resin printed as well, the same thing, but that's resin. So you're always going to get some awesome results with that. But that just looks badass. And the details on that. And when you compare the two, it just ends up, wow, turns out really, really good. So anyway. But that's something that, knowing that I could go down to that 0.8 on the standard stock nozzle, it'd be interesting to see how that would go. On your 0.2 nozzle, you got to do some figures there, bro. So you got to do the super small benchy, and the benchy that you did was awesome to begin with. But reduce that down half again and then do that. Yeah, that'll be wild. Well, figures are just the bread and butter for resin. They have to be. Yeah, they have to. And the way that resin printing is today in the machines, you can't really tell the difference, between 8K, 10K, 12 or 16K, set at 30 microns or 50 microns or whatever. It's like you're not going to be able to tell the difference once it's primed, or hell, even if it's not primed, it's still going to be some amazing detail. So yeah, crazy stuff. So anyway, eventually what I'll end up doing, I think we're good on the skeletonized. So what I'll end up doing is I'll put this one and I'll throw in the other one, and I'll throw that onto, I missed a little bit. I missed a little bit on the design. Yep, I sure did. So notice how there's a little bit of a right on top of there, that little booger there. Yeah, that little, I need to, I'm glad I caught that. One of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. So yeah, I'll have to reduce that and see what it is. He says, I'll print out the other benchies tomorrow, normal and micro, and so I'll have a full lineup. That'll be cool. That'll be cool. So yeah, definitely something. That'd be really cool to see. With that small nozzle size, that will be wild. So, yep, sure enough, I missed that one part. And we're just going to drop that down and fix that right now. Okay, we're good. So eventually I'll throw up these paint racks on the Creality Cloud once I get them all done and I get the pictures, and then I'll upload it to Creality Cloud. Those will be free. So we got a couple of things to look forward to. That, and if you go to my Creality Cloud account, you can end up getting all of those things for free. All the models are for free. Let's see, where am I? Boom, there it is. So we can actually take a look at that. All of the free models on there, the original paint rack, the wall-mounted paint rack, which will almost line up with IKEA Scatus pegboards. You got some other models and things that I did, paintbrush stands. All of those are free, so feel free to check that out. And again, it's all made with Tinkercad, and I'm just learning how to do that, so be gentle with me. All right, so Ferrithus is going to get us some benchies with his new 0.2 nozzle on the Creality K2 Plus. Seeing small benchy that was so tiny, and then he's going to half that and make it even smaller. So we'll have the full lineup. That'll be interesting to take a look at. So yeah, shoot me the pictures, and when I do the next video, we'll check that out, and we'll throw those up on the screen and take a look at the micro benchies. Micro benchies, that's kind of good. Now you got me wondering if I should make a micro benchy at 0.8. Maybe we should just go ahead and run that right now. Not to steal your thunder. Let's see, what do I want? What do I want? I should probably do, I need to go back to prepare, and I'll throw in another plate, and on that plate I will do a benchy, and that's a full-size benchy. You know what? Let me do another overlay. Screen overlay. I'll do that. And you reduced it 50%, didn't you? And and Ferris says, and then you can do the nano benchy on the resin printer, 12% scale. Wow, 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 wow. So let's try, yeah, that could be fun. So I reduce this down to 50%. And if we get rid of that, let's move this over. And we go to, what did we say, the 0.8? 0.08 was like the small. And what does that come out to? Oh, I need to take off the supports. Duh. Da-da-dee-da-da. And that'll be 1.82 grams. Really? 4 cents for a benchy? And that'll take 15 minutes and 5 seconds. And I have the build plate here, so I'm not gonna, I'll print that up later. But yeah, it makes you wonder how small you could go on the nano benchy on a resin printer. I don't know if I'll pull this, but maybe I'll do a couple of different benchies on this, and at least this one, we'll see how that goes. So yeah, that'd be interesting. So again, what was the scale? 50% of the normal benchy. Yeah. Yeah, we can do that. We can throw that, and then maybe we'll do a smaller one. See if we get down to 25%. Again, a 0.4 millimeter nozzle. I don't know if that would work, but 0.08, I don't know. We'll see. So anyway, we'll have some fun. Either tomorrow or at least plan on tomorrow. We'll see if that works. And then if you get that printed out or whatever, shoot me an email with those pictures, and then we'll do a video either tomorrow or the next day, and then I'll print these out, and I'll hold these until we do the benchy, the micro benchy test between the 0.4 and your nozzle, the 0.2 millimeter. So that would be kind of cool. So, all right. So fun stuff, fun stuff. And if anybody else is watching, which not too many people are, but if you want to throw in a super small benchy and shoot me an email with those pictures, if you want to do that, shoot it to this email right here, the official theverylife@gmail.com. Get that. Barrett has sent me the email for his benchy, his cool benchy. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe and all that cool stuff, blah, blah, blah. And we will host a video on the small benchies of the world for the few of us that are involved in 3D printing. Whether it's resin printing or FDM printing, it doesn't matter. We can throw all the pictures up and shoot me an email and let me know that you're interested. And maybe if we get enough people that are interested, I don't know. We'll see how this goes. I'm not sure. So anyway, that's going to be it. We'll go ahead and let everybody go. Thank you, therapists, for the good information and sharing the benchy. That is kind of cool. Looking forward to that. Now you've got me going from skeletonized paint racks to small benchies. So I'm wondering how this is going to work out. So I think I will print it in white or gray. What do you think? White or gray for printing out the benchy? I'm not sure. That'll be interesting. Because this is going to be, the benchy at 50% is 30 by 15.5 by 24. So we'll do that. Okay, enough screwing around. We'll do that. Yes, Ferrithus, have a good day. You as well, and everybody else who's watching. And stay tuned for the next video on this, and we'll see how the battle of the benchies goes with different nozzles and different sizes and all that. All right, we'll see you on the next one. Peace. Benchies.